Most insane convicts who freaked out after given a life sentence. In this video, we will delve into the chilling stories of the most insane convicts who, upon receiving their life sentence, unleashed a storm of unprecedented chaos. What drives these individuals to the edge of sanity? So let's get started. Number 1. Meet Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari, a charming couple from Cedar Springs, Michigan. But don't be fooled by their humble appearance, because behind closed doors, they are charged with the heart-wrenching murder of their 10-month-old daughter, Mary Welch. Unbelievably, they ignored their baby's obvious signs of distress, choosing not to seek medical help. Why, you ask? Well, it's all because of their so-called religious beliefs and a deep mistrust of medicine and the government. This is a case that will leave you shaking your head in disbelief. Let's tune into the chilling 911 call made by Seth Welch upon discovering his lifeless child. The operator asks, "How long ago did you find this child?" Seth nonchalantly replies, "Oh, about an hour and a half ago. I didn't rush to call 911, you see. I had to consult my lawyer first, figure out my next move." Can you believe the audacity? When questioned about the last time he had contact with Mary, Seth casually responds, "Oh, it was last night around 3 p.m. So let me get this straight. Their children routinely sleep for nearly 19 hours straight. Something is definitely not adding up here. As the investigation unfolds, the autopsy reveals the shocking truth. Mary's cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration due to the neglect of her own caregivers. The weight of their monstrous actions begins to sink in for Seth and Tatiana. They realize that their lives are forever changed, as now they face charges of felony murder, a heinous crime committed during the perpetration of child abuse in the first degree. The gravity of this charge cannot be overstated. It carries a sentence of life in prison without parole. Their DNA samples will be taken upon arrest, a bitter reminder of the consequences they must face. The couple also faces charges of child abuse in the first degree, as they knowingly and intentionally caused serious physical harm to Mary. This despicable act is punishable by a lifetime behind bars, or any term of years less than life. It's hard to fathom the level of cruelty they inflicted upon their own flesh and blood. Number 2. Diana Lovejoy is a woman whose marriage with Greg Malvahill went down the drain faster than a roller coaster ride. Their messy divorce and legal battles left scars that would forever haunt them. But little did Greg know, Diana had a sinister plan up her sleeve. With a court order demanding a hefty sum of $20,000 and joint custody of their son, Diana's fury reached a boiling point. Instead of accepting the court's decision like a responsible adult, she concocted a diabolical scheme to rid herself of her ex-husband once and for all. And who did she recruit as her partner in crime? None other than her boyfriend, Weldon McDavid. The plot thickens as the bullets start flying. Greg, the unsuspecting victim, found himself caught in the crossfire as a gunshot pierced his torso. But fate was on his side as the bullet miraculously missed his heart, sparing his life. But who could be behind this cowardly act? The court wasted no time gathering enough evidence to point fingers directly at Diana and her accomplice, McDavid. It's mind-boggling how some people can let their emotions spiral out of control. Diana's rage drove her to the brink of madness, where murder seemed like the only solution. But justice was not blind in this case. The courtroom was packed with overwhelming evidence against her, leaving no room for doubt. The tension in the air was thick as the jury delivered the verdict. Guilty echoed throughout the courtroom, shattering any illusions of innocence. And as the gavel struck, it was as if the whole world went silent, save for the cries of Diana's devastated family. Even she couldn't bear the weight of her own actions, fainting right there in the courtroom. Or so it seemed. But let me tell you, it was all just a show. Medical professionals quickly discovered that Diana's fainting act was nothing but a charade. She had fooled everyone with her theatrics. Unfortunately for her, the truth would catch up sooner or later. The consequences were severe, as they should be. Weldon McDavid, the trigger man, received a sentence of 50 years to life behind bars, while Diana Lovejoy herself was sentenced to 26 years to life in prison. Justice had spoken, and it was loud and clear. Number 3. A 19-year-old with a sinister agenda, attempting to rob an unsuspecting man. But things take a deadly turn when a shot rings out, snuffing out life forever. It's a chilling tale that sends shivers down your spine. Now, fast forward to the courtroom, where justice is about to be served. The convicted killer, still clinging onto a glimmer of hope for a chance at parole, eagerly awaits the judge's decision. But the judge drops a bombshell, uttering those words that crush all hope. Parole is out of the question. And that's when it all explodes into chaos. The convicted killer's anger boils over, fueling an aggressive outburst that shakes the very foundations of the courtroom. The tension in the air is palpable as deputies rush to maintain order, desperately trying to contain this explosive situation. Can you imagine the sheer audacity? The convicted killer, faced with a lifetime behind bars, lashes out, defying the justice system with his reckless behavior. It's a startling reminder of the lengths some people will go to when their hopes are shattered. Number 4. In a courtroom fraught with tension and sorrow, a deeply distressing scene unfolded as two females, convicted in a tragic case involving the untimely death of a 3-year-old girl, received life sentences. The weight of the verdict, announced by the judge, unleashed a torrent of emotions, prompting a visceral reaction from the two women that left the entire courtroom stunned. Number 5. A judge sentenced Marcial Aguiano to 40 years in prison for aggravated assault, following his act of cutting his niece with a butcher knife. Upon hearing the sentencing, Aguiano attempted to commit suicide by slashing his own throat using a thin blade from a safety razor. Although he survived the attempt, he is likely to face additional charges for smuggling contraband into the courtroom. Number 6. Now let's talk about the chilling case of Jaleel Smith Riley, the heartless perpetrator of Cincinnati, Ohio. Portia Brooks, a young woman of only 20 years, sat in her car alongside her boyfriend, Aaron Martin. Little did they know that their lives were about to be shattered by the menacing presence of Smith Riley and his two accomplices. Their intentions? Robbery. But when they discovered that Martin had no cash to offer, a bullet was mercilessly fired, leaving him with permanent brain damage. Smith Riley, devoid of any shred of humanity, then turned his weapon towards Brooks, taking her life in a senseless act of violence. 3 days later, she was gone, leaving behind a trail of devastation and grief. As the courtroom scene unfolds, Smith Riley attempts to convey a facade of remorse. He wants the world to believe that he is burdened by his actions, haunted by the consequences he cannot undo. But let us not forget the pain he has inflicted upon the victims and their loved ones. In a powerful victim impact statement, Brooks's mother pours out her heart, revealing how Smith Riley has mentally and emotionally shattered her identity as a mother of 3, as the core of a family of 4. Brooks's sister steps forward, demanding justice for the irreparable void that Smith Riley has left in their lives. She echoes the sentiment that if she must endure a life without her beloved sister, then Smith Riley should face life without parole, locked away from society forever. The tension in the courtroom reaches its peak as the final judgment is delivered. Smith Riley receives the news that he will never again set foot outside prison walls, condemned to a life without the possibility of release. His attempt to take a life, along with the profound suffering he has caused, carries the weight of a life sentence. Number 7. Andrew Worth was charged with first-degree murder after he shot and killed a police officer. His bail was set at $1 million. After the judge sentenced him, Worth reacted aggressively, prompting the officers to utilize an electric stun gun to subdue and calm him down before they could escort him out of the courtroom. Number 8. This brings us to Michael Marin. After being found guilty of arson and facing the possibility of a life sentence behind bars, he placed his hands over his mouth and swallowed something in the courtroom. A few minutes later, he began gagging and ultimately died. A subsequent toxicology report revealed that he had poisoned himself with cyanide upon hearing the verdict of his sentencing. Number 9. Now we have Rhinestone Stone, a wild Colorado man who took his crime spree to a whole new level, captivating viewers across 5 counties as a news station's helicopter captured every heart-stopping moment. Stone, with a disregard for the law, carjacked not 1, not 2, but 3 vehicles, one of which had an innocent 4-year-old inside. Speeding away like a man possessed, he led law enforcement on a hair-raising chase, pushing the speedometer well past the 100-mile-per-hour mark. But watch closely, folks, as Stone's reckless actions take a dramatic turn. In a heart-pounding twist, Stone's vehicle clips a Colorado State Patrol trooper as he bravely tries to stop him with stop sticks. The trooper suffered serious injuries, but Stone shows no signs of slowing down. He brazenly pulls another unsuspecting victim from their vehicle and continues his adrenaline-fueled escapade. Zooming through a bustling intersection, the chase soon transitions from wheels to feet as Stone darts into a parking lot, navigating the slippery ice and shedding his jacket in the process. But can he make the leap? Alas, it's too high, and the brave men and women of law enforcement close in on their prey. Finally, after a gripping pursuit, Stone surrenders, accepting the consequences of his actions as he is confined to the county jail. However, in a shocking twist, Stone sees himself as an internet sensation and demands compensation for his newfound fame. In phone calls to his friends, he boasts about making headlines in the UK and Australia, convinced that his trial video footage should be monetized. During his court address, Stone tries to attribute his actions to emotional stress and drug use, pleading for understanding. But justice is swift, and the jury convicts him on a staggering 18 charges, included attempted manslaughter, child abuse, and assault. The judge, sending a clear message, delivers a sentence of 160 years in prison, ensuring that Stone's days of inflicting chaos are over. Number 10. Now let's shift our attention to another shocking case that unfolded in Rhode Island. Enter Esteban Carpio, a man facing questioning by the police for the brutal stabbing of an 85-year-old woman. Carpio seizes the opportunity, grabbing Detective Sergeant James Allen's gun and unleashing 2 fatal shots, forever silencing a brave officer. Undeterred by his heinous act, Carpio makes a daring escape, leaping out of a 3rd-floor window, defying gravity itself. However, his freedom is short-lived, as law enforcement apprehends him a mere 45 minutes later. The courtroom scene that follows is nothing short of astounding. Carpio enters the arraignment, wearing a mask designed to prevent him from spitting or biting at others, his face displaying the aftermath of his encounter with the law. But it's not Carpio's reaction that leaves everyone stunned. It's his family members, who cry out accusations of police brutality, claiming he was mentally ill and in need of help. An FBI investigation, however, concludes that excessive force was not used and that Carpio's injuries resulted from his jump and subsequent struggle. Facing the harsh reality of his actions, Carpio is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Each day, he must confront the consequences of his deeds and the irreversible pain he has caused. Number 11. In a traffic incident that unfolded recently, an 18-year-old teenager found herself facing a harsh reality as she was handed a sentence of 20 long years in prison. The severity of her punishment was a direct consequence of her involvement in a nefarious act that stemmed from the usage of a dating application, which she utilized as a means to orchestrate a robbery. This ill-fated plan took an unforeseen turn when a fellow teenager fell victim to a gunshot wound, exacerbating the gravity of the situation. As the judge announced the weighty verdict, a wave of intense emotions swept through the courtroom, triggering an anguished reaction from the young girl's mother. Overwhelmed with despair, the mother's anguish manifested in an uncontrollable physical collapse as she crumbled to the ground, her cries echoing with profound sorrow and heartache. In this heart-wrenching moment, the courtroom was enveloped in a palpable sense of grief and tragedy. Amidst this harrowing scene, the teenage girl's distress reached its zenith as she pleaded relentlessly with the presiding judge, beseeching for leniency and a lighter sentence. In her desperate pleas, she invoked the presence of her mother, calling out for her amidst the chaotic backdrop of sorrow and regret. The courtroom stood witness to the agonizing spectacle, witnessing the raw vulnerability and remorse of a young life on the precipice of irrevocable consequences. Number 12. The solemn halls of justice bore witness to an emotionally charged scene as Brandon Spencer, a man found guilty of perpetrating a heinous act, stood before the court during his arraignment. The weight of his actions hung heavily in the air as he faced the consequences of his choices that forever altered the lives of those involved. Brandon Spencer's path took a tragic turn when he unleashed a barrage of gunfire at a Halloween party held at the esteemed University of Southern California. In the wake of this terrifying incident, he was met with the grave charges of 4 counts of attempted murder, casting a shadow of despair over the courtroom. With that said, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. And if you found this content helpful, give the video a like. See you in the next video. Till then, take care.